Whatever she's told you, that device is not what you think. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Shadow Vortex, written by David Llewellyn. This is the first story in the third box set of the War Doctor adventures, Agents of Chaos. Now, this is actually the first time I'm listening to any of these stories, and from the fourth volume, so this is going to be a new experience for me as well. Agents of Chaos was advertised as a big impact for the series. Not only does it feature the War Doctor interacting with the Sontarans, as shown on the cover there, which actually happens in the second story, but most notably, and it seems like it's a narrative thread that appears in all the stories so far, is that it features a Dalek, a particular Dalek, known as the Dalek Time the Dalek Time Strategist. That's the one. Now, before I get into the story, we need to talk about this Dalek Time Strategist, because you see, this isn't actually his introduction story. He has appeared previously in a 8th Doctor series of box sets known as the Dark Eyes series. Now, in that story, from what I can gather from my research, the Dalek Time Controller, a Dalek which we have tackled in the story Prisoner Zero, was brought back and actually started creating an army of time-sensitive Daleks known as the Dalek Time Strategists. However, the Doctor destroyed all but one of them, and this one of them had become a high-ranking Dalek general during the Time War. And this is where these adventures lie. That's the origins of the Dalek Time Strategist. Very interesting, and I really like how Nicholas Briggs gives them a much more crazed and more mellowed voice compared to most Daleks. Speaks like sort of like that. This also has Neva McIntosh, who's better known to New Who fans as playing Vastra from the Patronotregam, the Silurian, the lesbian Silurian. So that's really cool that she's got a different role here, playing a character called Lala Vintel. One second. Oh, just as Lara in the credits. Lara Zanis. Sorry. So there you go. This is also the first story in the War Doctor series that features Earth, as this is Doctor Who this is the War Doctor going to 1961 East Berlin. So that's some really cool information right there. So here is the Big Finish CD cover, which looks really nice, with this red lining on it, and you got John Hurt's face like over everything, kind of implying that he is this like mass exterminator in this way. And like always, I make my own DVD covers. This one came out very well. The image on that fitted perfectly with the more landscaped format. Yeah, it just looks really nice. Here's the spine, if anyone's interested, with John Hurt's face there, just being like, "Hello, I'm just John Hurt. I'm just going to look at you whilst you pick your favourite Doctor Who story. And remember, I'm not the Doctor. But if your favourite Doctor Who story is not one featuring the legendary Sir John Hurt, then you are doing something wrong as a Doctor Who fan." Can you imagine if John Hurt said all that? And here is the back, which kind of gives it away that this one is actually made by me, so there you go. So, we've tackled the covers, we've tackled behind the scenes, we know who the Dalek Time Strategist is now. So, on to the adventure. So the story begins in a cell where a General Kerber of the KGB is actually interrogating this woman who he had found being chased around by a fella with secret blueprints. She doesn't seem to be giving away any information. This person suspects that she's some sort of traitor to the British or Russian or some sort of organisation. She gives out that her name is Lala, but Kerber doesn't actually trust her. He also has the man that was following her in a cell as well in the other room, and this woman's just not giving away any information about who she is and what she was doing and why this person is following her. So he goes and investigates the other man, and he tries to get a name off him. Obviously, he doesn't get a name off him because this is the Doctor, as he tries to be. It's like, I got nothing to worry about. As long as you've got both me and her captive here in one of the biggest prisons in the history of Earth, then we should be fine. However, when the Doctor learns there are only 2 or 3 guards outside her cell and that she's not handcuffed, the Doctor starts panicking and starts worrying. And so in the other scene then, we actually get a breakout scene in which she goes around, she kills at least 14 soldiers and escapes, being one of the first people to ever escape from the Kreslin, the secret military base in East Berlin. And so the Doctor has basically got to give up his secrets and be like, right, I know you're not going to believe me, but I'm a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, and I'm fighting Daleks, and you're not going to understand any of this, but if she gets what she wants, the whole universe is going to, everything on Earth will be annihilated within the next 24 hours, so you've got to let me free, and you've got to let me chase her. And this character originally, of course, doesn't believe the Doctor, but after going to his superiors are like, okay, whatever we tell you now, you cannot go outside this room. From our history, from our secret organizations, we actually know about Daleks and Time Lords. In fact, we've met this particular Time Lord a few times in our past. We believe that this is the man who used to be going by the name of the Doctor. And so this character, Kerber, basically is like, right, he's telling the truth, and gets persuaded by the Doctor to let him go and actually come with him to try and find Zanis, who was actually trying to cross the border and is trying to go to a British embassy to give her blueprints for some sort of terrible annihilation project. Now, this story is very entwined with Cold War storytelling. You've got 2 factions, here being the east and the west side of Berlin, with high tensions. There's a lot of political status around everything, and reminds me a lot of like Tinker Tonker Soldier Spy, Atomic Blondie, and like loads of films like that. A lot of spy bridges, lots of stories like this, Cold War stories. Fits very nicely with War Doctor, what we've seen with the War Doctor stories. This was a natural progression to get to this era, and it was bound to happen eventually. For the most part, it tells the story in a very precise and a very well executed manner. We've got tensions with this leaked document, which could easily destroy everybody, but one side is greedier than the other and tries to get this device working. People are fearing, making actions in the fear that the other side will get there first. It turns out that Zanis is been secretly given blueprints to create a machine called the Shadow Vortex, which will give the Allies the ability to basically make an electrical impulse on East Berlin, which will not actually affect the West. So it's basically an EMP, but it attacks other places. It's not like this is the center of it. Or at least that's what they've been told. And Tardis is allowed to push this further and allow them to get the ball rolling, shall we say, because they have fears that an enemy group could get this device before them, and so they are willing to push this device in the hopes that they at least have the wrong weapons in the right hands, essentially. But the Doctor knows that there is something that's not particularly right. We also get flashback scenes of the Doctor just going on in his merry way when he gets boarded by Cardinal Alistria, a character that's appeared throughout so far every story in the War Doctor box set. And she states it's like, "I'm so sorry, Doctor. I'm terribly sorry. But one of the quantum shields that we've put around on a particular planet has gone faulty, allowing for the criminal Lala Tardis." Does that name ring a bell to you? And the Doctor says yes, it's something to do. She started a terrible ploy with the Draconians, and she is actually a Dalek spy, a human who works for the Daleks. We never really understand where that comes from or like how, but we've seen humans trying to work with the Daleks before, so it's nothing uncommon. And then Alistria explains that the quantum shield that went down is Earth, allowing for a little gap for Daleks to actually come in and the Time War to infect Earth's history. And so the Doctor, because of his love and passion for Earth, goes to Earth and goes on its mission, and that's how we get caught up in this story. Now, one thing I want to point out in this story is, in fact, the name of the Doctor. In Volume 1, I had a massive criticism that the writers, when it came to the name of the Doctor, though they do deal with it very well in the stories themselves, will always have scenes where a character calls him the Doctor by accident or on purpose, and John Hurt replies in the exact same way. "Don't call me that! I am not the Doctor!" In the exact same manner, to the point where it feels like the same clip is being repeated. In the second box, Infernal Devices, they kind of rectified that by giving the Doctor the title Prisoner 101, a title which the Doctor, not that he accepts completely, but he has no obligations about it. And so those small little nuggets of scenes are dissipated, whilst they still have the identity of what the Doctor means and what the name of the Doctor means to the Doctor himself, being part of the story and the narrative and the characterization of the War Doctor. But this story has characters, including Alistria, I'd like to add, calling the Doctor, and he has no obligations. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that two scenes, right at the start and right at the end, where characters asked him, it's like, "What's your name again?" And the Doctor's like, "I didn't give you my name." You could have easily just not realised that the Doctor wasn't even going by the name of the Doctor at this point. Very strange, very bizarre. It's something I really wasn't expecting going into this box set. I'm curious as to if this is something that will continue out throughout both box sets, or if this is just a standalone piece. It gives a nice different pace to the story, as we've dealt every War Doctor so far, with the exception of this one, has been tackling, in terms of the Doctor emotionally, is his relationship with that name. With here, it just seems to be like it doesn't really bother him. which is still a very strange concept, but it does give a nice little pace difference. I hope it's not a regular thing. I hope this is just a one-off. But yeah, it's an important thing to note. If you were enjoying the whole, the emotional impact of the Doctor's name and all these characters basically taunting that he is secretly the Doctor, or he wishes he was still the Doctor, but is not, then you're going to be disappointed in this little release. I will say, however, in the last story, The Never When, the conclusion of that did kind of feel like a wrap-up to that little emotional storyline. So whether the Big Finish say, right, that's the conclusion of that, no more Doctor screaming at people for saying that he's the Doctor, or whether this was just a one-off, I hope that's the case. We'll have to wait until we listen to the other stories in the box sets. But yeah, just thought I'd point that out. It's a very strange detail. And so Xanis gets the shadow vortex working as the Doctor takes Kerber into the TARDIS, and we get the scene in which Kerber's like, it's just a box, goes inside, it's bigger on the inside. This makes it feel like a much more traditional Doctor Who story. Even with the Doctor commenting, it's like, yes, I know what you're going to say, it's all been said before, so please, just relax, calm down, don't faint, because this place has got lots of edges, you could do some serious damage to yourself. Just relax, stay calm, and let me teleport the TARDIS into another place. So essentially, this is the most normal Doctor Who story in the War Doctor adventure so far. Set on Earth, there's no question on the Doctor's name, and we have a traditional companion introduction in a sense. Even though this isn't a companion, they do basically treat him as such. Now, Kerber is an interesting character. Throughout this adventure, he has a lot of scenes with the Doctor as he helps him break out of the Statling and basically slowly reveals a little bit of detail about himself. He fought in World War II, but he was unsure of his morality. Though he was obviously part of the Nazi side, he wasn't really into it. He wasn't like into Nazi ideology. He was once a teacher, but gave up the job because when he went back to teaching, he looked at the kids that he used to teach, and he states to the War Doctor that he had fought alongside kids their age and seen them die in front of his eyes. It makes it really hard to focus on that job. So he became this kind of secret police officer in a way. And the War Doctor can relate to some extent in some way. This also makes him a nice counterpart to the Daleks. There's a great moment where the Doctor actually compares the Daleks to Kerber. They don't actually say Nazi, which I find really strange, but he compares them basically to the Nazis. But he says to us like he can feel something different about Kerber, that he has a little bit more compassionate than the people he represents. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let him on in the TARDIS. So their friendship becomes very strong. We also get some really great humour, especially when the Doctor goes into the British Embassy and pretends that him and Kerber are scientists, and the Doctor basically rushes in. It's like, hi, this is Dr. Warner from Oxford University, but now we've got to go. So sorry we can't give you our identifications and stuff, but we're in a rush. So come on! And they go in, and the Doctor finds the shadow vortex and basically gets imprisoned because the Allies believe that they are secretly working for the evil side of East Berlin, of of like basically neo-Nazis or communists. So the Doctor and Kerber get imprisoned, and whilst this is going on, Xanis is actually plans. She actually succeeds, allowing a small group of Daleks, including the Dalek time strategist, into 1961 East Berlin, to which the Daleks then slowly start an invasion. But the Doctor has a plan, and one of the scientists who actually developed the mechanic who actually put together the shadow vortex kind of understands the premise of the device and feels like this is a terrible way for anybody to think, and she morally objects to it, to the point that when, just before the machine is activated, she actually leaves. When she hears the Daleks, she actually goes into the prison cells and frees the Doctor and Kerber. Now, according to the official TARDIS wiki, she's actually the second companion, the surrogate companion in this adventure. Very strange. I think her inclusion, especially her connection with the Doctor, is a bit too late for me personally to count her as a companion in this story. But she does have that eagerness with her. I especially love when she goes into the TARDIS, because she's a scientist and she is absolutely enjoying the TARDIS. In fact, when she goes in, the first thing she says is that it's a tesseract. For those of you who don't know, a tesseract is a scientific terminology in which you have basically a 3D shadow of a four-dimensional shape, specifically a four-dimensional cube. And the Doctor's like, you're wrong, but that's some brilliant logic that you've got there. And when the Doctor proclaims what the shadow vortex does, that it allows you to open gateways, timelines can merge and dissipate so that quantum shieldings just don't work and stuff. She hears like parallel universes and it's like super precision, quantum mechanics, Schrodinger's cat, they all are real, they're all real. That's so like mind-boggling. However, I feel like this character doesn't get really a lot to do apart from the fact that she's a scientist at the start, and she's kind of just really giddy on the TARDIS. She has much part of the purpose in the plot, in a sense, and she doesn't really represent anything to anybody's character, or no character represent anything to her in a way. So I think her inclusion was a bit wasted, in my opinion, and that time could have been better spent for other characters. The Doctor here has a plan, and basically what he does is he puts the TARDIS around Xanis and the shadow vortex, and then what he does is, whilst the Daleks are firing bombs and weapons, he transports the TARDIS back in time, something which he fears might even endanger the entire universe, but he has to, in a small chance it will save Earth's history, and something which actually goes against every TARDIS safety protocols. He actually teleports the TARDIS back in time a little moment just before the shadow vortex was created, and actually places the TARDIS around the shadow vortex and the younger Xanis, so they appear within the same space and time, creating a sort of mass paradox. And the Doctor uses the TARDIS to shove her and the shadow vortex into an alternate timeline in which the Daleks did destroy Earth, but because of that, her history wasn't born. She was never born, and therefore, because she doesn't have her paradox protector on her in this particular timeline, she is in a horrible state of non-existence, which is probably a really dark thing for the Doctor to do. It's pretty messed up. And because of this, the Daleks are forced to retreat, basically ending the narrative of it, and the Doctor takes his two new friends in his story back. It's also here that we learn that Kurtoff's, that his wife was something that was against the Nazi party. Maybe she was Jewish, or maybe she was of colour, or maybe, you know, she was various things. The Nazis hate a lot of people, and he basically wanted to run away from Germany whilst the Nazi party was rising. But she wanted to stay, and she was actually killed in a concentration camp. And that's how you can see that he basically hates himself for participating in this war. Something which the Doctor kind of relates upon. However, it's not actually mentioned anywhere in this story. It's really strange. Maybe they're setting it up for later stories in the box set. I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see. Something as well I found really interesting. I'm going back a bit. This Dalek plan to actually invade Earth by altering its timeline and the quantum shielding, breaking through it. From the Dalek time strategist, this is actually a personal attack against the Doctor. At one point he proclaims that destroying Earth in 1961 will also kill all, most, if not all, the Doctor's companions, to the point, because many of his companions have saved the Doctor's life at one particular moment in his life. And so destroying Earth at this moment will to kill the Doctor in previous timelines, erasing him from the Time War. This is a personal attack against the Doctor. The Doctor never actually learns any of this, but I just found it a really interesting aspect of the story. Now the story wraps up with actually a cliffhanger where the Doctor's headed back to Gallifrey and tries to get in contact with Olistria, and stating that he saved it, Earth is safe, you don't have to worry now. But a general talks to the Doctor and is like, Doctor, I'm sorry, but Olistria, she's been captured. Olistria is missing. And that's our cliffhanger leading into the next story. So that's the Shadow Vortex. Overall, it's a very strange story. And strange as in, it's actually kind of a really normal story. The Cold War aspect of it is a very fun and engaging plot, and it fits right into the War Doctor era. However, it doesn't deal with most things that other stories within the war, Time War has dealt with. It doesn't deal with the Doctor's name. It doesn't deal with, it does deal with time paradoxes, but not in the way where the Doctor's morality and the Time Lords are questionable in all this. It's much more, Daleks are doing something bad, let's destroy them. Not to say that it's bad, it's really, really fun, especially here in the War Doctor and this Kerber, their characters work off really fun off against each other, and it's much more like a romp than anything else. But it's not too focused on hugely emotional moments or any dramatic implications to the Time War. In that way, it's really refreshing, and it's actually a nice palate starter to get back into more heavy Time War stuff. I just hope that this isn't a trend of the series. But it's but if you go into it thinking, right, we're going to get a nice little Doctor Who story, a good nice way to open the box set, then you're going to be happy with this. But if you're feeling that this might even be my least favourite story of the War Doctor's era so far, but it's still very good. Mainly it's for fun. This is a fun story, and I think that's its only real objective. It's fun. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So there you go, that's the Shadow Vortex. So join me next time when the War Doctor goes looking for Elistria and goes face to face with one of his most deadliest enemies, the Sontarans. So join me next time for the Eternity Cage, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!